And sharing my screen. And here we go. Okay. All right. So I'm pretty happy, but I want to make some tweaks, right? What just happened here? I must have changed something that caused my jaw to affect my eyes, and that's a problem. Why is that happening? Let's see. I don't know what happened here. I don't know why that did that. Let me do, that should be easy enough. I'll do my, it's probably the back of the head joint. So let me redo this. That's affecting it fine. I'm going to pull this joint out because really this should not be affected by anything down here. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
The funny part was that you said something.
So what is pulling that? Huh. All right. So I have jaw joint 1, 2, 3. I'm going to actually do, I'm going to use this. This is going to be a good thing. I'm going to use that component editor. I'm going to select these upper vertices here. Nope, I can't do that. I have to hide. I'm going to hide my joints first. I'm going to show joints so that I don't have to do that. There we go. And I'm going to select just these upper vertices here, making sure I have an equal selection on both sides. All right. So now, actually, I might have gone too far, but I'm going to check. I'm going to use that component editor, and I'm going to look at. Actually, I'm just going to do this on the eyeball joints, right? I'll do these first. So these should not be affected by the jaw joint at all, right? And you can see it's affected by jaw 2, which is a problem. So what I'm going to do here, this is basically a spreadsheet, right? I'm going to take all of these. I'm just highlighting and dragging, clicking and dragging, all the way down to the bottom. It's a lot of vertices. And I'm going to type 0. And that has taken jaw 2 completely out of the picture. It looks like neck is also affecting it. Neck 2. That doesn't make sense for the eyeballs. No. So I'm just going to highlight all of these. And I'm basically making the weighting on those vertices to be 0. So they're completely not affected by the neck and the jaw. So let's see what that did. Come on. Object mode. Much better. I still have some in here, right? So I'm going to select. Actually, for that, I'm going to use the weighting. But, you know, if you have a major problem like that, you can actually use the component editor to adjust that, right? And I'm not getting enough on the lower jaw. I don't know what happened. I don't know what I did at some point. I caused problems with my interactive thing. That should have been affected, but it doesn't seem to be affecting it as much as it should, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into the other way of adjusting weighting on skin, and that is again, under skin, the paint skin weights tool. Okay, so I'm going to go to the options here. Okay, this is one of those instances where having the options box open, in my opinion, is the only way to work, really. Okay, now with the skin selected, okay, this does not work on selected weights or on selected joints, I should say, right? So if you're like, I can't get it to show up, it's not showing the weights. Well, because you haven't selected the geometry. You have to select the geometry that's being affected in order to paint the weighting. Now, the skin has turned black, huh? Oh, hold down B and left click and drag. Yeah, any brush tool, whether it's painting or paint selection or soft select or anything like that, all works with the B and left click and drag. So now, right now, even though this is showing up black, I have spine 1 joint selected as my influence, right? So it's showing me the influences down here, right? What I want to see is the influences around the head. So if I go into my list here, here's neck 1, neck 2, back of head, eye joint, stuff like that. I want to see how the jaw 1, 2, and end. Now, I don't like working with a grayscale image for my weighting, okay? I like to use the color ramp. In my opinion, the very, very slight, if I add 0.01, something like that. I'm just going to do a little bit of a paint out here, right? I'm adding the tiniest bit of influence out here to my jaw joint, right? It almost looks black there, right? But if I use the color ramp, it's obvious that there is actually influence there. And if I undo that, you'll see how big of a difference that makes, right? There's 0 influence here. I do the slightest little touch, can't even see it in your black and white map, right? So in a color ramp map, just like I said before, red is almost 100%, white is 100%. We didn't have white on the interactive, and blue is very, very little at all, right? Okay. So what I usually do, okay, when it comes to checking the weighting on this, again, you want to pose your character. So in this case, it's going to be like closing your mouth or something like that, right? I have 3 joints that are affecting this lifting up here, right? Jaw 1, jaw 2, and jaw end. Jaw 2 seems to be the culprit, right? But I don't want to paint jaw 2. What I want to do is I don't want to, it's harder to properly paint your weights by removing weighting from a joint. Because the thing is, like I said, every vertex is affected 100%. Some of that percentage goes to one joint, some goes to another, some goes to another. If you remove weighting from a vertex, it doesn't necessarily place that weighting on another joint, which means that you could remove all of the weighting of every joint from a vertex, and what will happen is that vertex will spike down to the ground. It'll cause major problems, okay? So what you want to do, instead of removing weighting from this jaw 2 joint, what I want to do is I want to add that weighting to the joint that I want it to go to, like perhaps the top of the head joint, right? So I'm going to select the top of the head, and I'm going to add some weighting. And usually I do this in values of like 0.1. And I'm just going to start painting. And people like to use, sometimes they'll like to use a Wacom tablet or something like that, because the entire top of the head is just skull, right? So I could technically paint the entire top of the head to be weighted to this top of head joint, and it would be fine. Like I could paint the entire eyeball, right, and all that stuff, and the entire mandible. The more I paint, the more it goes into place. No, I'm not. I'm just clicking. I'm just left click, left click, left click, left click. Are you impressed by my circle making skills?
I'm more wondering how you're able to make it white.
I'm just left click and drag, left click and drag, left click and drag. I have my, because I have the mode is paint mode. My paint operation is adding a small value with full opacity, right? And I have a soft edged brush, right? So it all comes from these controls over here. Gotcha. Okay. So I'm going to soften this, blend this in. I'm going to go ahead and add 100% of the eyeball sockets, right? I'm going to hide this eye geometry because these are not going to be weighted at all, right? And that way I can have access in here and just paint that up 100%. You know, if this is taking too many clicks, I can always up my value to 0.2, you know, but it's easier to go slow than it is to like overdo it and then retract, right? So I always do it in small increments. You know, like this area, that's all top of the head. This is all skull right in here. At the edge of the mouth, that's where I want it to be partially affected, right? So I can do just a slight tweak like that so that it's a little bit affected, but not 100%, right? And then I'll just fill this in, fill this in. White is 100% affected. Red is almost 100%. White is 100%. Think of it like fire heat, right? Something burns, it's going to burn orange. The hotter it gets, the closer it gets to white. So, you know, and all of this is simply to take care of that jaw issue, right? And I can just pull this back here. Now, some of this may be, you know, some of this geometry may be fine with some of these other joints. I'm just continuing to paint, right? But let me pull this. Now, actually, I have an issue right here. Let me just look at that again. Let me add that. Kind of blend that a little bit more. You know, the top of the inside of the mouth is also part of the skull, you know. And again, as with any brush operation, right now you can see the center of the circle, it has this little A to the left of the center of the circle, right? For lack of a better word, right? That means add. That means that I am currently using add as my operation, right? As with any time you're using painting, if you hold down shift, it will switch to an SM, which is the smooth operation, which is right here. So you can quickly smooth some things out. So like if I go too far, actually I could use a little bit more over here. I didn't see that. If I go too far and I have like white against black, right? And I want to blend that. I hold down shift and I can smooth that out, right? It makes this nice little rainbow bands, right? I can smooth that out like that, right? So this is how you want to treat like the side of your jaw. You want to like smooth this down so that it blends really nicely, right? And I feel like even though I have white right here, I have this really weird geometry problem going on right there, but we'll come back to that. Now, again, I'm only testing this from this joint. This is the joint that's going to rotate. I don't want to move these, right? That's not how I'm going to rotate. I'm doing it from the base jaw joint. And you can see that, you know, I'm still getting some lip adjustment and stuff like that, right? So I'm going to take my mandible and I'm going to remove some of the mandible control, right? So technically I want to do, I don't know what happened to my jaw one joint. I don't know why that's, whoa, my mouse just freaked out.
We were still at the top when we were coloring this head white on the top. We were on the little tip joint.
Yeah, we were up at the top of the head.
Sure.
All right. So here, it's, I don't know why it's not. I can also, while I have my brush selected, I can also right click on a joint and go to select influence. That's the same as selecting it here. I'm going to add some influence here to the back of the head also, because for some reason it's not affecting it properly. And I'm going to go to the jaw here. I'm going to affect a little bit here. The back of the head should be what's affecting this. I don't know why the jaw is affecting that, but we can come back to that. Just smooth that out a little bit. And I'll do that on both sides. Smooth that. Just holding down shift and smoothing that out. I'm going to smooth it in through the back of the mouth. Come on. Eye joint. I don't know what's pulling that away. I'm going to add more here. And smooth that. I'm going to add some here. Come on. And I'm going to try this component editor again and do my vertex. I feel like these are not getting they're not getting the control that they need. So I'm going to take these vertices right in here. I'm going to hold down tab and I'm just going to paint selection. right in this area. All right, jaw. These should not be controlled by the mandible. I don't know why they have 1. Set those to 0. There we go. They should not be controlled by the spine.
So a little quick question about the painting.
Yeah.
The colder the color is, the less control, and the warmer it is, the more.
That's exactly right. There we go. We're getting a little bit more of the type of control that we needed here, right? I had to remove the influence that these joints had from these other things that shouldn't have been doing anything. It has 1 on most of these, right? And I don't know why it wasn't doing that, right? So let me go back in here. Move that down. I have vertices in here that are just freaking out here. This is what I mean by make peace with it. All right, let me look at this vertex here. All right, so I have a vertex that's just completely out of place. And there's a tool here under skin called hammer skin weights. What that does is that averages the weighting of a specifically selected vertex similar to the vertices that are around it, right? So these vertices here and here are weighted a certain way. So I can select that one vertex, hit hammer skin weights, skin, hammer skin weights, and that will give it the average of the rest, right? I can do the same over here. I don't know how these got left behind, but they're just acting up. And I'm going to redo that same tool. So I'm going to hit G to redo that command. And it's hammered those weights. You don't want to move them, right? I don't want to sit here and move that. That's modeling. I don't want modeling. I want average weights. I want skinning, right? Okay. So you don't want to move the vertices at all, right? Everything should be done with your weighting and those tools, right? So I'm going to take these, I'm going to average those to come down and blend with those. I'm just hitting G to redo my command over and over again. And just kind of blend it with the vertices that are around it, right? Some of these got a little bit, I got a little too excited about it, right? Some of these are even cutting through. I'm just hitting G over and over again to average these weights, right? And I think I'm just going to do that for the rest of these, right? Because they're not acting the way I want them to. So I'm just going to average these out. That's a bit much, but maybe I can bring these down instead. Oh, those are good. Technically, I kind of have kind of have a like my jaw is in an extreme pose. So this is probably going a little bit overboard when it comes to the weighting. And I'm going to do the same thing for this cheek area, right? Okay, so rather than drag a selection, which will select objects in the back, I'm going to hold down Tab and paint my selection right in here. Make sure that I did select some in the back. That was before though. Make sure that I only select the things that I want. I'm going to add to my selection there and hit G and average those up. So this is getting better. I'm going to select these here in the mouth. I'm just selecting vertices and rehammering those weights because I had a lot of extremes going on and I wasn't happy with that. So I'm just averaging these weights. Now, let me just try this where it is. This one right there, that would be an instance for an average. All right, I'm still getting some issues up here, but let me go back to vertices. I'm going to select these, average those, average that one.
That's the face of the winner.
I hate joints in the way. Huh. I'm not sure what's going on there. Let me see if I can select my mandible and maybe smooth that out a little bit. So it's there's a lot of back and forth on this, right? Just holding down Shift to smooth, clicking and dragging to add. Right, I had those previous issues, but I had other things that were going on, so I had to come back to another technique. Like it said in the book, make peace with it, right? Let me go to here, and I'm just going to smooth this out. See if I can hold down Shift, see if I can get a little bit better result in here. Maybe do some joint 2. Moving. 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 So the face is the hardest part, right? So like that's why I'm spending so much time on this, right? I'm actually fairly happy with this, right? If I take this, I move it. There's going to be a little bit of adjustment. This right here is a problem. I don't know why it's doing that, but let me set this to 0 and see if I can get this work right. And actually, I need to rotate that. Oh, you know what that is? I keep wanting to add it elsewhere, but the rest of it is being affected by these other things. So that's what's going on. I don't have it smoothed here with everything else. Technically, this shouldn't have any influence on it, but if it does, the rest of it should move. Right, so I'll just smooth that. And now it's not being left behind. There we go. All right. I have a little bit up here that's being affected by it. All right, so I can just take that top of the head joint again, or the back of the head, doesn't matter to me, and just add more there.
So if there is a remove, an add more of the weight paint. Is there, which one removes it?
What?
Like I said, you don't want to remove. You want to add it to what you want it to be on rather than remove it, because it may not add that weight that's taken away to any other joint. It's better to add what you want rather than remove what you don't. Know what I mean? Because if you, like I said, if you remove 100% of your weight from your vertex is going to spike down to the ground, right? So you want to make sure that it adds where you want it, right? Or you can technically, you could, as long as you've added it, see, that's a lot less movement. As long as you've added it somewhere else, you should be able to do some remove, as long as you're removing it from the wrong joints, right? So you want to add it first and then remove it.
That's kind of what I meant. Like,
I got you.
said
Okay.
You only want to add to where you want it. Well, what if there's a spot that's
Yeah.
there and I don't want it there?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. You're right. That's a good point. So like over here, I wanted it added to the top of the head or the back of the head, but removed from the jaw joints. If I find that it's still on the jaw joints and I've added it to the other joint, it's okay to remove it from that jaw joint as long as you add it first, right? Okay, yeah. Okay. All right, so now that I've done that, these other joints should be fine still because of the interactive skinning. Really, the only thing I needed to tweak was the head. I'm happy enough with that. I'm okay to move on. I'm going to bring up my eyeballs and close my component editor. And I'm basically ready to start the control setup, right? So again, I'm just going to select all of these joints, look at the, double check for any problems, right? That's fine. The spine also bends back, so you want to check it backwards as well. It also twists, so you want to twist it. Make sure that everything looks good. Move the head by itself. Check it for that. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, really. Check the jaw. Mostly up and down. Mostly. And always reset your, check your arm up and down. Check it also forward and back, right? This should be okay, right? As long as you've used the interactive skinning, okay. Elbow moves this direction, right? It doesn't need to be checked like this, although it is a puppet, so technically it could. And there's that, right? Okay, check both sides. Make sure that they're both working properly. This one I did not fix, so I have an issue, right? Technically here, I could still go back, even though I've done weighted skinning, I could still go back and go down to my interactive bind skin tool, right? I still have the option to bring it up. I don't have to go back here, right? That would skin it again. I can bring up that tool again and, tweak those settings, right? So if I had here, I want to pull that back, get it similar to the other side, right? Check there. Pull that back a little bit. This one's fine. Like that, I can pull that back a little bit. Want to make that one wider and pull that back a little bit and pull that down a little bit because I don't want it to affect the upper arm. Blend it just a smidge. And then this one, pull that down like this, make that wider, right? And that should do it, right? And then if I test it, how's it look? It looks okay. I want to just fix that a little bit. That's going to be from these joints, right? So I'm just going to pull that down a little bit. I'm going to actually move that back a little bit because that's not working the way I want it to. Let's try that. Pull that down a little bit. That's much better. And get that out of the jaw. I feel like that's a little bit squeaky right there. And that's okay. I'm going to do this one. I'm going to pull this out a little bit just to affect these right here a little bit more. Yeah, something like that. Right? So now I'm done. Zero that out. Everything, I'm happy. Save as, version 6. And then we're going to create our controls. So what we're going to do, just to kind of mention this, right? What we're going to do similar to what we did before, right? We're going to have a main control that controls the scale of the character, the placement, the rotation of the character as a whole. We're going to create a couple of spine controls and a head control. We're going to create a jaw control. The eye is going to be similar to what we've done in the past, but the eyes also have to follow the skeleton, right? So that's what these joints are for, right? And then we're going to create some simple controls for the hands, and that'll be it. And we should be able to get through all of that tomorrow.
Oh boy.
So if you need to make more progress before tomorrow, which I recommend, it would be working on the skinning.
Yeah.
Because that can be frustrating, as you saw with my simple head situation, right? So, any questions before we go? I know Haiti doesn't have a book. Khalil, you'll get your book afterwards. Deanna, you need to get your book, I think, right? And everybody in here has a book. Did I miss anyone? I feel like we have more books than we... Alrighty. Well, nobody's answering, so I assume that's all as well. So I'll post